Recording. Hello, I'm a very naughty boy.
Hello, I'm not here.
Hey. Welcome back, Dan. It has been a minute. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Well, let's get into that a little bit. This is being recorded on July 12th, 2023. And I gotta tell you, buddy, it was just one of those days today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How was your day?
Oh, it was fine. Pretty uneventful, actually, so nothing to complain about.
Did you have to interact with the public or anything like that?
No, not any
Okay.
more than necessary.
Sure. So I have to do a little bit of bitching up top here. For one reason, our buddy Kellen, he's a very busy boy, and he hasn't been able to carve out the time to record much. So there won't be a music section. So we gotta like fill up a little bit of air, but also I had to bitch a little bit because I'll be vague about it. But let's say about a week or so ago, I let's say I played Mario Brothers. Ate some
hmm
yeah, whatever. And the come down from that was like a little heavier than usual for me. I think it's because I didn't realize I was actually playing Super Mario. And there's stuff that people talk about with that where, it increases your capacity for empathy. There's like ego death where it's like it's not so much about you anymore. It's about the interconnectivity of you and the rest of existence on like almost on a molecular level. And
hmm
you just spend about a week just pondering that and like, am I an asshole? Do I treat people like shit too much? Should I rein in this? Should I rein in that? And at the end of the day, it ended up being kind of a good, almost therapeutic process to go through. But that was kind of starting to wear down on me, and only the last couple days have been normal, where I'm like, all right, it's regular Jacob Wayne Bryner time now. And but I'm still like walking with a little bit of diamonds on my shoes, stuff. I'm looking at stuff a little differently, a little more positively. And then today, it was just one of those days where it's like, are you fucking kidding me? I went out to do my usual standard stuff and was like crossing the road as I was told to
hmm
do with the little walking green man. And this car, like, had to have been less than a foot in front of me, takes this left right in front of me, and then, like, stops, like, oh, like, what? And I, like, look into the vehicle, and they're just looking at me with their, like, mouths open, just hanging. It's like had to be 20 something year olds or whatever.
Yeah.
Not laughing, not like, oh, geez, sorry, just like staring at me like, what? And I'm just like, you almost killed me, bro. And when they just take off down the road, it's on College, it's the busiest road in Fort Collins, and, I'm not going to stop them, they're not going to stop. I give them the old, well, fuck you, flipped them off. But then,
hmm
I'm like, like, yeah, almost getting killed kind of bums you out.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And I'm like in the store, like, yeah, just whatever, shrugging it off. And then literally people are doing that in the store. Like just whipping around corners, like almost right into me. And, or like people just like walking at a brisk pace and then like suddenly stopping right in the middle of the aisle.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna snap somebody's fucking neck. Like fuck this empathy. Like, everybody, no, I will still be a good person. I will, like, maybe they had a bad day. They didn't mean to. They're just fucking idiots. But, yeah, it was. And then, trying to plan stuff today. It's just like, I can't because this, then that. I'm like, fuck. I was ready to wake up and kill it today, and it's just
Yeah.
one of those fucking days, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you think it? I guess this is what I will pose towards you, other than me just getting a little bit of that out. Is do you think it's the heat? Like as soon as
It
it gets
might
hot,
be.
everybody becomes like extra stupid
Yeah.
or angry.
It's either that or the full moon.
Man, maybe it's
Is it
both.
a full moon? I'm gonna look it up.
Well, I do think Mercury is in Capri Sun right now.
Yeah, probably.
So if you have
Full
that,
asparagus.
yeah, full blooming asparagus. Um, Asparagus. Yeah.
Not a full moon. Can't blame it on that. Mm.
The moon was nice and thick last night, though. Super girthy.
Can't blame it on the werewolves.
No. Well, because at least a werewolf would have the decency, like if it was taking a left to cut me off, it would eat me.
Yeah.
Like, finish
Yeah.
the fucking job. Don't look at me like a fucking dumb twunk. Am I not supposed to take a left like that? Yeah, just. Anyway, that's my bitching up top. Let's do. Do you have any like music you've been listening to lately? Anything new that came out that you'd recommend?
Um, Not really recently. I mean, the latest album that I have been listening to pretty consistently is the new Depeche Mode album, but that's been a while.
Yeah, I talked about that with Kellen when it first came out. I love Depeche Mode. That's a great album. But we did discuss it. So if you missed that episode for whatever reason, Momente Mori.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. Great album. So go check out the new Depeche Mode. Lately,
Yeah, I'm
though,
not
good.
because I, used to be, but that's probably the latest release.
Yeah, I feel like lately I've just been either playing some games, listening to podcasts, or working on my own music. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say definitively that the last month or so has been really low on releases of interest.
Mm.
There's one website I go to. I'm not going to bother pulling it up, but it's like you check what the releases are every Friday.
Yeah.
And I did take like a Saturday, either if it wasn't last, yeah, it wouldn't have been last week, so it was the week before, 2 weeks ago. I went through all this stuff, like I went through the highest rated stuff, and a lot of it was garbage, like in my
Yeah.
opinion. But really auto tune, predictable, formulaic, like borderline AI music.
Yeah.
It's like this is ridiculously predictable emo. This is ridiculously predictable pop. And I was like really bored.
Yeah. What happened to all those like COVID masterpieces that we were supposed to get where all everybody was trapped inside and they should have been making music, right? Thought we
Um,
were supposed to get so much great shit.
I can say this confidently that I've heard enough people mention it now that COVID's over. Well, at least the pandemic is.
Yeah.
And everybody has said some version of this where it's like, oh, I thought when that kicked in, it would be this amazing time to finally get to spend time with my loved ones and my family.
Yeah.
And then I would work on my novel, or I'd work on my masterpiece, or I'd learn how
Yeah.
to carve wood. And everybody didn't do that. Other than a couple, like, dudes, like, I think it was Bo Burnham that did that pandemic special.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple guys that really leaned into the, pandemic, yes. I mean, I'll even give myself a little bit of kudos. I did 4 paintings that were, like, pandemic themed.
Yeah.
and like it was like everybody like they would send in these panicked selfies, like looking panicked, and I
Mm-hmm.
would just paint them like doing something relaxing. So put the head on like somebody reading a book in their living room, but they're like freaking the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept that up for about 4 paintings, and then I'm like, wow, this isn't ending anytime soon, and now this is getting a little like dark and depressing. So I stopped, but I can't say that that's the case for everybody else, but everybody's like, yeah, I didn't end up doing that. I ended up laying around eating Doritos,
Yeah,
watching old
pretty much.
movies, and hanging out with family and friends. I think a lot of people did do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. There's something there. It's philosophically speaking, where it's all this coulda, like, oh, I should be doing that. I should be working on my great thing, and it's sort of like, if you want to do it, you'll do it,
Yeah.
and or you'll just be like too nervous to start something new because you don't want to suck at something new, or you don't really want to do it that bad. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that, but it's like I remember a very similar thing was as an excuse to like say it's okay for Trump to get elected. I remember a bunch of people saying it's like, well, at least the music's gonna be really good because you know that. Remember all those awesome albums that came out during George Bush or during like the '60s, and it's just like, yeah, that. Even if that happens, like that's not a good reason to have him be president. Like, fuck you.
Not worth it.
Yeah, there's a similar bit by Patton Oswalt where when Bush was finally out of office and it was like Obama's first year or whatever, and he was talking about people that would come up to him and be like, "You're sure gonna miss George Bush, man. You're really gonna miss him." I'm like, "Where are you gonna get your material, man?" And he's like, "I'll figure it out." It's like, I am not fucking worried about finding material. Like, just, I'm glad to have the fucking clown shoes out of the office. But, yeah, we are not doing politics, but, I do think, and I mean, literally, like, about a month ago, there was some really awesome new releases, so this isn't a exennial bitching and moaning about new music. There's plenty of great new
Yeah.
music. I just feel like it's been a little dead this summer. But,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess another notable one. This one is even a little further back than the new Depeche Mode album, but the new Devin Townsend album, Lightworker.
Sure, we talked about that too. I
Yeah.
mean, with Kellen, of course it's going to come up.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, Devin Townsend. Once again, if you're hopping into this podcast for the first time and you don't know who Devin Townsend is, just just dive in somewhere. Read up a little bit on what the style of the album is, because he's so varied that
Yeah.
depending on your taste, some are going to appeal more than others. But I mean, he's kind of like a modern day Frank Zappa, like
Yeah.
a metal Zappa or something.
Metal Zappa.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big compliment.
Hey,
I mean, he deserves it,
I think he
but
deserves it. Like he did a metal band, Strapping Young Lad. That was his first thing, right? Other than
yeah,
maybe
that's when he was
singing
like a
for Van Morrison or something.
Steve Vai.
Steve
He did
Vai.
some stuff when he was like 16. Like
Mm-hmm.
Strapping Young Lad is his, young angry metal days.
Yeah. And then he went off and did like the Devin Townsend Project, which is where I first started. I was too young and like in that stupid puritanical metalhead stage
Yeah.
of like Strapping Young Lad. It was just weird to me. And
Yeah.
I would watch like the revived Headbangers Ball in the early 2000s, and occasionally Strapping Young Lad would come on, and I'm like, I don't get this. Like, what's going on? But later on, he did the Devin Townsend projects, and there's the one with like the pan flute, and it's like very like almost Native American music. Um,
Um, there's a few of
it was
those.
the
You
early
mean,
one. It was very like spaced out, peaceful.
um,
But
well,
regardless,
yeah,
that was the one that was showed to me, And then I was like, that's pretty sweet. It didn't really grab me totally. But
Hmm.
then Key is the one where I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I get what this guy's doing and what he's after. And then I listened to a bunch of his interviews, which I also highly recommend. He breaks down his music very well. And
Yeah.
there's another great episode where he like went off on this list of influences, and you could literally listen to just about any of those and at least be intrigued by it, if not fall in love with the music act.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just have that be the music section. Go listen to Depeche Mode. Go listen to Devin Townsend, and listen to Gamma Pop, my band. Save shameless self promotion. With that, I yeah, we'll save the. I want to talk to you about a couple TV things, but we'll save that more like the movie news
Okay.
section. So let's get into the main chunk here, which is our review of Nightmares and Dreamscapes from the Stories of Stephen King, released in
Hmm.
2006. Was that a TNT show?
TNT.
All
Yeah.
right, and that's gonna be part of this discussion for sure. Um,
That's interesting.
yeah,
This is just a random little tidbit, but this is interesting. Begins July 12th is on their little poster that I'm looking at on
my God,
IMDb.
I
So,
fucking
so we're
knew it.
watching it at the exact same time of year as it
S-
originally came out.
17 years ago.
Yeah.
What's its cycle for coming back and creating havoc and eating children? Was it
27,
23, 27?
20, 20 something. I
Yeah.
forget.
I think it is 27 years. That sounds right. And yeah, I guess with just shitty shit stuff happening, it's every 17 years, I guess. Now, I don't mean to talk so much shit on this show, but
Mm.
that is part of why we're doing the review. Is, as you may or may not know, we've been going through all the Stephen King content and ranking all of it, and we've been splitting them up into sections. We did the first movie, which I believe was Carrie, right?
Yeah. Yep, it
And that
was.
was late 70s, and then we did that through the 80s. Then we ranked all the 90s content, and recently we've been watching all the 2000s content. And there's a lot of miniseries and actually whole seasons of TV in this decade. Some of it we haven't been able to find, and when I watch this, I kind of feel okay about that because this is such a particular weird little collection of Stephen King content that I
Yeah.
felt like we needed to discuss it as its own episode because I don't know now if we necessarily needed to. I'm still going to be intrigued by going through each episode, but at the time we were like, oh, we're going to have to do a separate thing for this because wherever it lands in the ranking, it's such a convoluted piece because there's a
Yeah.
couple episodes that are really bad. And then we're like, well, there's going to be some good ones, so you don't want to like have that get buried by where it is on the ranking list
Yeah.
of everything else together. But I don't know. We're gonna go through this and maybe on the fly kind of rank it. We don't
Yeah.
have to be so particular about numbering it, but we're just gonna discuss each one and a little bit about the story that they came from. If we remember anything, we're not gonna do super deep divey research on this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, just season one, and I think there's only one season. Nightmares and Dreamscapes from the Stories of Stephen King, 2006.
8 episodes long.
Uh huh. So let's just start with the first one. Why don't you tell me about episode one?
Battleground. So this is the one with the assassin that kills a toy maker in the beginning,
Yeah.
and basically goes back to his own apartment and gets attacked by a magical, chest of army toy soldiers.
Yeah. It reminds me of there's that trilogy of terror anthology back in the 70s where the little tiki warrior comes to life and like attacks the woman in her own apartment.
Hmm.
Had a little bit of
Which
small soldiers in it.
they reference that tiki in the
Yeah,
episode.
that's right. I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
they have like a little flash cut of it like twice, I think.
Yeah.
The tiki doll.
Yep.
So definitely a nod.
Yeah, but yeah, essentially a little toy or token item thing coming to life trying to kill you. Um, it stars William Hurt. That's his name, right?
Yes. William Hurt. It has Bruce Spence in it, which you might remember him from Beyond Thunderdome. He was the gyrocopter pilot in that.
Oh, he's also the Mouth of Sauron,
Mouth of Sauron.
the
Yeah,
weird black contact, white, blow up mattress face looking guy from Episode 3 in Star Wars.
yeah. But
And
it's like 99% William Hurt. It's just this
yeah,
guy and the toy soldiers.
I gotta give credit to that guy though. Still, he's also the conductor or like subway guy in the Matrix.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he's been in Mad Max, Star Wars, The Matrix, and Lord of the Rings. So kudos to that guy.
That's a,
I still don't know his
that's a
name.
pretty awesome repertoire there.
Yeah, and he always has a big ass mouth. But
Yeah.
yeah, and also William Hurt. I always mix him up. Who's the actor that played the Prime Minister in V for Vendetta?
Um,
John Hurt.
John Hurt. Yes.
Yeah, I mix those two up. So yeah, William Hurt from like Altered States, and he's the general in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's first showed
Hmm.
up in Hulk. So one of the shticks of this episode is there's no dialogue.
Yeah. Not a lick of it.
Yeah, and while that could be a fun device, and I think this pops up in a lot of these episodes where it's like that's a fun narrative device, but it just comes off as like corny or trite,
Hmm.
and it's like and yeah, you get bored by it immediately, and I don't know how you fix that. I don't know how you like take a trope like that, like see what we're doing, and then make it. I mean, I guess you just have to be interesting. Where I think like a lot of stuff doesn't happen in this that's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oddly enough, it's one of the highest rated of the series. I mean, I would probably consider it one of the best filmed of the series, but lacking in a lot of other departments.
Yeah, it had the best effects.
Yeah.
I think I could say that for sure. They were unique. It had, and we'll mention this again, but every single one of these episodes has that really weird made for TV, TNT almost specifically, kind of like video effects, special effects.
Yeah.
And this one I felt like they did at least an interesting job with it. It does look weird, but
Hmm.
it was kind of clever. It was like dudes in like trash bag looking army suits, so when they like spray paint it all green, it does kind of look like plastic men.
Yeah.
And I will say that without the dialogue, that's probably why they picked William Hurt, because he can act like a motherfucker. So he did like maintain the presence of this guy.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say the acting was bad or anything like that. It was just kind of predictable by the numbers. You knew what was going to be happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know. To me, the concept of little toys coming to life and attacking you is not that interesting.
Yeah. I think what mainly turned me off on it was the length. If this was a half hour episode rather than 50 some odd minutes, I think I would have been a lot happier with it because it just ended up kind of like rehashing the same kind of stuff
Yeah.
a lot. Like it was a lot of the same.
I also think it must have been, and this is a little bit of the speculation on the kingness of it. It seems like a allegory for the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
and then also a little bit of King Kong.
Hmm.
And I guess that's kind of intriguing if it was saying more. I think
Yeah,
that
we talked
Vietnam
about
was
that a
referenced a
little
little
bit.
bit, I think, in it, but I can't remember.
Yeah, we talked about that. Um, I mean, we kind of do this with every movie, like what we would do to improve it, and leaning into the either like some sort of PTSD angle or war angle, as more of a metaphorical piece. I think wouldn't have hurt it. It may have come off a little, I don't know, condescending, but I don't know.
Well,
They could have done something with it.
he does come off as like a cold, like emotionally shut off guy. So I
Yeah,
would have like done cutscenes to back when he served in Vietnam, and he was maybe a little more affable or like friendly,
yeah,
and just maybe it's a commentary on what the war did to him, or this is just like, I don't know. You could play the angle of like you never fully get away from some horrible things you did. So maybe he was a
yeah,
piece of shit in the war, and it's like the revenge of the small warrior kind of thing. I don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll move on from that one. But I would say that it did leave us like, I think, intrigued to watch the next ones. We're like, that wasn't that
Yeah.
great, but there's bound to be some other really good ones in here. And so we move on to episode 2. Why don't you tell us about that one?
This is Crouch End. An American couple in London gets lost in an abandoned part of the city where a terrifying Lovecraftian dimension seeps into our own.
Hmm. Um, was this the worst one?
I think so.
I think it's the lowest rated one too, from what I'm looking at least on IMDb.
And the problem wasn't the premise. You could
No.
have done something cool with the premise. It
Yeah.
was all of the god awful camera work that was so amateurish.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look what I learned in film school. We can do Dutch angle with every shot, and shaky handheld cam, and like it to up the intensity of the scene. And like it was just so heavy handed with tricks, I guess,
Yeah.
of cinematography that it was like it was a lesson in what not to do.
Yeah. Um, I think it goes a step beyond shaky cam into like meth man camera. They're like,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 like just like getting in their face and then like shaking and then running around them in a circle and
Yeah, there was a scene, probably about the middle, where there was just a handheld cam. It was just a dialogue scene between two people, and the cameraman was just running around them
mm-hmm.
for like 5 minutes. And it was just like, fucking stop.
Yeah,
Like, we get it.
yeah. And I would also say that this had the worst acting. Really
Yeah.
bad acting.
I thought it was kind of comical how they really tried to push like, "Hey, we're in London, guys. Remember? Oh, we're in
Oh, I'm in
London. Hey,
funky
oh,
London town.
oh, we're in London, guys. You remember where we are? We're in London."
Yeah, maybe they felt
That
like
was
they needed to
very
do that because
comical to
everybody's
me.
like, I know it's almost always in Maine, but we're in London this time. But and I think the reason it got even worse was there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. Where out of all these stories, it might be one of the short stories I'm most interested in reading. Excuse me.
Yeah,
But like, cause all kinds of weird mythology of king stuff pops up in this. Like, I could have sworn it's like the vampiric succubus cat people.
yeah.
There's a
Well,
couple other things. There's the thinny,
there's like,
the
yeah, the
the
thingy.
weakness between dimensions, like a thin
Mhm.
line where a dimension can poke through or people can poke through. There was other stuff. I think there was just straight up like Salem's Lot type vampires.
Yeah, the bikers had their little, uh, you know, look and you miss it face change thing to like
Yeah.
some sort of, I don't know if they were going for vampire, but something similar.
There was like H.P. Lovecraft type creature, like octopus creature, that is
Yeah,
like sort of the Mist, sort of Dark Tower stuff.
yeah,
So, yeah, like I'm intrigued to read the story, and that's what made this episode even more annoying. Is it's like, wow, you just like squandered this material. Like to me, Battleground, they did what they could to make it cool, and I
yeah,
there's not a lot of areas you can go to make that better, other than just
yeah. The
being a
source
better
material,
filmmaker.
yeah, source material on Battleground was definitely weaker than what they were given for this, and they just squandered it completely. Whereas Battleground, I think they did the best they could.
Yeah, I don't know anything else on Crouch End.
No,
I mean
I,
it. I don't want to just shit on it just constantly,
I
but
mean,
it's just like I don't know if I have anything positive to say about it other than
yeah,
the
I'm
material was
struggling to
cool.
find, yeah, struggling to find something positive to say about it. It just, it, I remember while we were watching it, like, it was probably annoying, but I was like yelling at the screen, like, fucking stop it. Like,
Yeah,
just because of how bad the camera work was.
it's the most angry I've been at camera work in a really long time, maybe ever.
Yeah,
That's possible that might be the most annoying camera work thing I've ever seen.
yeah.
Um, and not counting Halloween or Sleepy Hollow High, which we're going to talk about in the future. But I kind of give that a pass because that was some dude making it with his cell phone and digital camera or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where I think the like where I really started bitching about the TNT thing. Like
Yeah.
everything TNT makes is just got this weird sheen of bullshit.
And that blue filter
Oh yeah,
that they use throughout this thing.
it's spooky blue filter. Yeah, a lot of bad choices, and this is the worst one, and I think IMDb agrees.
Yeah.
And so I'll take this as the opportunity that if you're somebody who listens to this show and has seen any of the stuff we're talking about or listened to any of the stuff we're talking about, and you totally disagree with us, you know, within reason, write us a letter at thejacobwayneshow@gmail.com and let us know why you disagree. And just, yeah, just don't be cunty about it. That's all I ask. You can be a little cunty, because that can be fun, but yeah. We will move on to the next one, which was episode 3. Why don't you tell us about that one?
3. Umney's last case. After the death of his son, writer Sam Landry is so desperate to lead another life, he writes himself into his own book, forcing his longtime character to change places with him and live in the modern day.
Yes, this one was my favorite. Pretty
Yep. William
easily.
H. Macy,
Mm-hmm.
great. Did great.
2 William H. Macy's for the price of 1.
Yes.
And one of them is an old timey gangster. Like, I guess not a gangster, an old private detective.
Yeah, Gumshoe.
Yeah. And, I don't know, like, let's see here. Do you think the material is what elevates it? Or is it just William H. Macy's that good? Or is it just
I
it's
I
pretty
think
much
it's
both?
a I think it's a little combination of both. I think the material was decently strong, but William H. Macy definitely, bumped it up quite a bit. I mean, he's absolutely a fantastic actor. I can't think of another person to put in that role that would have done it better.
Yeah.
Um, I
In the
suppose
no, no.
the story was a little maybe predictable, but I mean, it wasn't at the beginning. Once you know the premise, though, the rest of the story is kind of like, well, yeah, of course they did that.
That being said, I don't know how much I've seen it, and I like the premise. It's just an enjoyable premise. It's like, oh, the
Yeah,
author talking with one of his characters.
yeah.
And then yeah, switching lives. It's sort of the parent trap trope, sort of like you live in
Hmm.
my life, you and blah blah blah, and what happens because of that. Um. So yeah, like it's almost like you think of Groundhog's Day, where it's like yeah, that's not a genius premise. It's like it has to wake up and live the same day every day, but it's kind of like who you give it to and in what circumstance. So
Yeah.
um, I think the set design in this was pretty good considering it's
Yeah.
2006 TNT. I don't remember hating the camera work. There was no really
Hmm.
bad effects or CGI. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, the effects in Crouch End was terrible. I don't know if we mentioned that. But yeah, like all of it was pretty bad. This was, yeah, it didn't. And I think this is where we started to be like, man, we for sure need to like do a separate review of this because this one's good. So, okay.
Yeah.
The So I guess like let me regress just a little bit. Crouch End is our worst one on this list. Is it the worst Stephen King thing we've watched?
Mm.
I
I
think it
think
is.
I think we talked about this even after watching it, and I think we decided, yeah, it probably is.
Yeah. The only
Looking at
reason
our
okay,
lists,
yeah.
yeah, everything at the bottom, yeah, I'd rather watch.
The only thing is it's like we're either gonna watch Crouch End or we're gonna watch Trucks. And the only reason
Yeah.
I might pick Crouch End is just so we can get it over with and move
Yeah.
on. Like that would be the only reason. So it's like
Or
if
to
you
show
like
it to like a film school class to be like, hey, don't do this.
yeah, it's like we're all gonna totally shit on it. Maybe. Um, but I mean, I guess if you put it this way, if you took Battleground and Crouch In, it's like we're gonna either watch those two episodes or we're gonna watch Trucks. I might say Trucks,
Yeah.
and that's like Battleground is better than Trucks, but that's how bad Crouch End is. So
Right.
there you go. But then Omni's Last Case, a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'll say it again. William H Macy killed it. Uh, my favorite episode of the whole thing. So our hopes kind of went up a little bit, and then we got on to episode 4. Why don't you tell us about that one?
Okay. Episode 4. The end of the whole mess. The world has changed. Violence, war, and hatred have been eliminated and replaced with kindness, peace, and love. But at what price? You remember this one?
Yeah, I was a little drunk for this watch. I will say that. But uh I think it let me take a look here.
Well, so the
I'll
general.
say this real quick. The the last episode of this whole thing, I was like, that one's actually pretty solid and might be close to my favorite. But in
Mhm.
hindsight, I think this one might be my second favorite. Just because of I liked the premise a lot.
Yeah.
And some of it worked and some of it really didn't. So it was really
Yeah.
like back and forth for me. But what do you think of it?
Um, see, the problem is I'm very lukewarm on it. Like, there wasn't anything that I thought was outstanding, and there wasn't anything that I thought was terrible. It was just fine, you know?
Yeah,
Like, and that's sometimes worse than something that's terrible or great, you know? It
that's
just
true.
because it was kind of a meh feeling watching the whole thing. Like, it didn't grab me particularly, but it didn't, make me want to turn it off. So it kind of just this middle of the road TV story that I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that the fact that I was tipsy made it hard to like zone in on it and give a fuck. That's for sure. But I do
Hmm.
think that that's just inherently in the story. Like, it's just kind of like it moves from one thing to the next. Like, wait, what? Oh, but
Hmm.
oh, okay. Wait, what? Like, And it just keeps
Yeah,
going on that way. And they didn't really develop the brother thing as much as I think that they could have to make this even more like. When he
yeah.
pops up and says that he has this, like. So, if I remember correctly, doesn't he come up with like a formula where he's going to dose. Like a virus or something that he's going to dose humanity with? And it's going to make them
Hmm.
more like bees. Like they'll be on the same page and
Yeah,
something like that.
basically, it makes people less prone to violent tendencies.
Right. But then, yeah, it just makes them all like docile idiots.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of a later side effect of like everything was perfect for a while, and then, the but at what price thing
Sure.
is everybody basically gets dementia.
Yeah. And hey, man, I ain't gonna lie. After playing Super Mario last week, the premise did pop back into my brain, like, because like people that will try hallucinogenics and things, the almost the thing you'll always hear them say is like, man, like what if everybody did this, and then like the world like runs on alcohol, man, and like what if it ran on like mushrooms or weed, bro? And it is like, they'll just be, what if we just dose the world, man? And then I like that this premise is just like, no, yeah, what if it makes you all just like idiots? And then humanity just like fades away and like regresses. That's
Yeah.
kind of a fun concept. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I did like that. I mean, clearly that is not the same thing as like a natural growing thing like that, but
Yeah.
it's I did like the idea that this guy's trying to come up with this miracle cure, this miracle drug, and then it just he's like, "Oh, oops, sorry."
Yeah.
It just
You
fucks
know,
everything
the
up.
yeah, the bad consequences of good intentions, that whole, classic story structure. And I think what didn't do it for me is the way the story was told in flashbacks. So at the beginning, they set it up with just like this guy's video diary, and he tells you the story pretty much entirely in flashbacks. And I don't really like that story structure in general. It can be done well. I just don't think they did it well.
Dolores Claiborne was really good with that,
Yeah.
flashbacks and whatnot.
It can be done well, but I just think the whole video diary, narration basically of I don't know. I don't think it was done as well as it could have been.
Sure, I can really like it sometimes, and then other times it's just like, oh boy, here we go.
Mm,
But yeah, and if I remember correctly, there are a couple like stylistic effects type stuff that they do where I'm like,
mm-hmm.
that's stupid. It's more of the TNT, like why, like why.
Yeah, that was kind of pervasive throughout the entire series. Is there were some just odd visual choices that maybe were popular at the time or something, but they really don't age well. Just stuff I didn't like particularly
I feel
much.
confident in saying that I remember stuff I was watching in 2006, and back then I would have thought that this was garbage. In like even for like TV stuff. So,
Yeah.
but that as you say, it happens in just about every single one of them. So we'll just mention it when one actually doesn't do that, rather than just saying every single one of them sucks, other than a quick note of it. But I don't know, like, but yeah, premise is what kind of wins on this one for me, though, a little bit, despite their stumbling way of telling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what if COVID was supposed to bring the world together, and when they developed it in the lab that was inside that bat in the wet market, just something went wrong. It was like,
Yeah.
oops, sorry. I don't know. Let's move on to the next episode.
Um the road virus heads north. A popular but terminally ill horror author returns to his old stomping grounds with an eerie painting in tow, is greeted by agitated dogs at every stop, and death follows in his wake. That's a poor summary, but I
I
guess
like
it's
that they
true.
felt they needed to mention the agitated dogs.
And also the terminally ill, we don't know he's terminally ill. He just went to the doctor and apparently his colonoscopy found something. We don't know he's terminally ill.
That's kind of the crux of it, as he's scared, but
Yeah,
he doesn't know. We don't know.
exactly. This is a
Um,
bad summary, but
and weird, a Stephen King story about a writer. That's that's
yeah, that
odd.
never happens.
That's odd. I'll say that the acting was solid in this one.
Yeah.
Um, I don't. I usually don't care for the what would you call that? The cursed item plot.
Yeah, I think it can be done well. Like I enjoy a good monkey's paw story or something, but
Thinner's great. And that's like a
yeah,
curse, but yeah,
yeah,
monkey's paw is good. Um, and you'd think I'd be more into this because it's a haunted painting, but I'm like, maybe
yeah,
that's why I don't like. That doesn't do anything for me. I'm surrounded by my own paintings all the time. It's like, eh. I think I've even had that thought. It's like, yeah, what if I painted this and then it fuck shit up? Like, I remember, once again, not to be political or whatever, but in 2016, I was doing a lot of Trump paintings just to be like, just to mock him and try to
yeah.
point out, like, look what a piece of shit this guy is. But there was, in my head, it almost felt like I was fueling it. It's like, you're just giving the trolls, like, see, we're getting to the lib cucks, or like something. And so, like, since then, I'm like, I might do political themed paintings again, but I've kind of been like, I don't know, like putting that out into the world in
Yeah.
a weird way. And so maybe it's a little bit something like that. Um, Other than that, I mean, yeah, the plot's predictable.
Yeah.
Uh, the
I
way
mean,
they
not
tell
in
it's
like
not terrible.
yeah, it not like in a horrible way. I mean, cursed item stories are always a little predictable, but the cursed item keeps reappearing in his back seat when he tries to get rid of it, and kind of tropey stuff like that. But I don't mind tropes.
No, they just got to be
But
done well.
yeah,
I would say that the painting changing was kind of fun. I mean, you would
yeah,
expect it to do that.
hmm
Um, Not shot obnoxiously, if I remember correctly.
yeah. It was pretty good comparatively to the rest. I mean, it wasn't anything outstanding, but it was better than the others.
So at this point, what's your ranking? Amnesia first. What's your second?
Okay, yeah. I would probably say that Omni's last case is number one. Road Virus Heads North is probably two. Three
Okay.
Battleground, four End of the Whole Mess, five Crouch End.
Okay. Yeah.
So far.
Yeah, I think by the time we got to Road Virus Heads North, even though it was fine and it was solid, I was like, I'm ready to be done with this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like, I don't think. Because even Omni's last case was hampered by the weird TNT ness of it all.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's not going to get better than Omni, is it? And I was like, nah. But, we got to power through. So, why don't you tell us about the next episode?
Okay, we're on episode 6 now. The fifth quarter. Willie, a just released convict, learns from his dying friend about a map in four parts that reveals the location of 3.5 million from a robbery. I had actually completely forgotten about this episode until just barely.
That's because it doesn't feel like a Stephen King story at all.
It doesn't.
It feels like a really shitty knockoff of a Breaking Bad episode.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's some similarities that you could draw to like Shawshank Redemption, but very loosely.
Yeah, very loosely. Willie, the main guy, he's played by the actor who plays Billy in 6 Feet Under. I got a soft.
Jeremy Sisto.
Okay. Yeah, I have a very soft spot for that guy, and I think he did a decent job with what he was given.
Yeah,
Everybody in it acting wise was actually pretty solid.
yeah,
It's just I don't know. The criminal who got out that like gets dragged back in for one last score.
yeah.
Boring as fuck to me. So it's almost like when you read the premise, it's almost exactly like what you would expect. So I don't.
Yeah,
Shot probably the most decent out of all of them, maybe
yeah.
just because it doesn't really need to do much.
Doesn't yeah, it doesn't do anything special. It just doesn't do anything offensive.
But I guess that's kind of the thing is like I will take something that I don't notice that it's just straightforward by the books
Hmm.
over weird experimental like wait whoa what am I doing with the camera like just like dude
Yeah,
calm down just hold just are they both in the shot like are they in the what do they call that where it's split into three it's like threes and nines it's like the grid
yeah.
on the thing it's like
Hmm.
are they in there okay good hold the camera still but yeah I don't really have much else to say on it though and it's like it's very forgettable.
Yeah, very forgettable. It was very straightforward story. No like big twists or turns in the story. I mean, I guess the reveal that a spoiler that it's at the place she works is kind of like unexpected, but it just
It's not like a whoa. It's like,
yeah.
oh.
It's like, "Oh, okay.
that,
Cool."
that was one part that we were joking about that would have made it hilarious is all these men like that have the ripped up map and they got to get the piece from the other guy to go find it. Like she
Mhm.
finds the actual money in a fake treasure chest at the carnival and it would have been awesome if like the main evil guy had found the fake treasure and thought it was real gold. And so convinced all his buddies, like, yeah, I'm gonna take out each one of you so it can be all mine. And then she goes and finds it, and it's like these fucking idiots. But that's kind of like that South Park episode where Cartman finds treasure in like the cave when they're trapped. He swallows all of it so he can shit it out later. And it's
Yeah.
all this fake treasure. So it's like, have fun with that, Cartman. It's like, ah. But all right, we'll just move along. What's the next episode?
Episode 7, Autopsy Room 4. Howard Cottrell is on vacation playing golf, chasing the ball into the undergrowth. He's bitten by a snake and completely paralyzed, showing no sign of life. At the hospital, unable to communicate, he is the key witness to his own autopsy.
Now this is the second highest rated one,
Yeah,
and
because it's fetish content.
why don't you explain that a little bit?
Okay, so I don't even really know how to explain it. He's completely paralyzed in an autopsy room. And they think he's dead, obviously. And so they're like cutting his clothes off him, and like it's gotta be highly rated because it's fetish, because I can't see any other reason why this is like a compelling or good story.
Well, let's get into fetish talk just for a second. I've seen the fetish of what if you could freeze people and
Yeah.
then you could just do whatever you want to them, and then unfreeze and they like what? It's the remote control fantasy.
Hmm.
But like, would you say that this is different? Is this the fetish of people that were like I can't move so they could do whatever? Oh, they might tickle my foot
Yeah.
like thing.
I mean, it's gotta be. I can't think of any other reason why it would be rated so highly.
Well, and there is like it does kind of revolve around his erection a little bit.
A little bit, but it's kind of a passing whatever moment. But
Well, okay,
that in combination with everything else, I think
sure.
is definitely fetish content.
Well, isn't like the scenes with his girlfriend like he's having a hard time getting it up,
Yeah.
and then I wonder. When did Viagra like become big?
I have no idea. Is that something I should Google?
You could if
Here,
you want. But
yeah.
isn't that derived from some sort of spider venom? Or at least where they like. If it's not Viagra, I know that an erectile dysfunction thing is that they found a venom that like makes you hard like for hours. So they're like, oh, we can use some of that chemical compound or makeup or whatever to treat erectile dysfunction.
March
And
of 1998.
okay,
Just throwing it out there.
I wonder when he wrote this, but I wonder if it's like he heard that story and it's like, oh, snake bite. So it's terrifying, but then he's had this ED issue with this lady, but then she comes to find him and save him in the autopsy room, and he finally wakes up, and then they look down and they're like, hey, well, I guess I'm happy to see you. And he has this weird inner dialogue with the nurse where he's like, I love you. Like, he starts to get weird, tripped out,
Yeah.
horny, like, as he's coming back to life. Well, like, coming back to, like, being able to move and stuff.
Hmm.
And I tried to find a snake in North America that might be able to do this, but I guess it's just imaginary Stephen King snake.
Yeah.
There's definitely snake venoms that cause paralysis, but that's just the nervous system shutting down. It's not like the temporary zombie mode or whatever they call that.
Yeah.
Um, we haven't even gotten to it yet, but I gotta say, who's the main actor in this? I forget his name.
Richard Thomas.
I don't like Richard Thomas. I find him annoying as shit, and
Even in it?
yeah, even in it. And that being said, I'm not saying he's a bad actor. Just something about him and his delivery and his stupid face.
At
I
least
get
he
it.
didn't have a ponytail.
That's true. He just became a rich creep. At least in Bill, he's like somewhat of a likable character. Just the delivery's odd.
Yeah.
But like, I hated him in Ozark as
Hmm.
is it Nancy's dad? Not Nancy. I'm jumbling the names in that show. The main wife in Ozark,
Yeah.
her dad. He plays that, and he does a
Hmm.
really good job because he's such a fucking hateable Christian piece of shit in it. Not saying Christians are
Yeah.
pieces of shit. I'm just saying the ones that are like judgmental assholes. Or I'm gonna take your kids away from you and raise them back with the Lord, and that kind of thing. And yeah, I just personally he rubs me the wrong way. Don't like him. And so the
Yeah.
fact that this story is his voice, which is one of the
The
particular things I
entire
find
time,
annoying.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, endlessly talking while it stares at his dumb dead body. Like, I was like, I can't stand this. And so maybe if you don't have the same distaste as me, maybe you're like, oh, that's fun and clever. Like, it has maybe some of the most Stephen King dialogue
Yeah.
of all of these, but it just. I feel like it works so much better in book format that to actually have the internal dialogue that heavy in a visual episode of something, I don't think it works that well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
cut
I
down on it and it works better, or different actor, different voiceover. I don't know.
Different actor, maybe. I mean, I could see it working. It's just it didn't.
What if it
And I
was?
don't know if that's because of the premise
Yeah.
entirely, if they should have just altered it, or if it's because of some other factor. Like, would I have liked this if it was a better actor? I don't know.
Was it? What if it was Joe Pesci?
Well, it would be a very different episode.
Everything's the same except just switch it out, and he's the guy doing the voiceover. It's like, what? You
Maybe.
might want to get away from touching my cock, sir. Like, I don't know. I think I would like it more, but I don't know. At the end of the day, it was like, oh, they're doing the eternal dialogue. He can't move. It is that fetishistic thing, and I found it super annoying. So yeah, the
Yeah.
rating of it did baffle me a little bit. That being said, the snake being all CGI and whatever was decent.
Yeah, it wasn't bad for a 2006 CGI snake. I was
Yeah.
actually pretty impressed.
Oh, and it did actually get me. Like out of everything in this, it like made me jump. It's a jump scare, but
Yeah.
I think it's when the snake came out of the golf bag in
Hmm.
the elevator. I was like, oh shit, okay. And I remember even thinking that it's like the snake's probably in the golf bag. Like I don't know if they're gonna do that or not. Like I wasn't sure of it, but and then
Hmm.
I kind of just forgot about it. And then I was like, oh god. So I'll give it credit there too.
What if
Um,
this was a side episode of 6 Feet Under? If the autopsy people, the morticians were
well written
those
characters.
actors. Well written, yeah, well written, good banter.
uh,
It might have worked.
that's the thing though. I don't think I'd want to hear the body's dialogue
Yeah.
because I don't in that show. I don't know. I feel like the way they would maybe do it is that, and then it would just change the story too much. So I don't know. There's a way to crack the code on that maybe a little bit, but it would be one of the autopsy guys, and then the body's talking to him.
Yeah.
He's like, "Don't you know I'm still alive?" But he's like leaning up on the thing naked.
Hmm.
Just kind of, it's like, "Don't you know? Like, take care of those shoes. You know how expensive those are." And it's like there'd be acting going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
is
it's
part
kind
of
of
it too.
hard.
That all the autopsy people are annoying as shit.
Yeah. It, it's kind of hard to act with just a voiceover, but I mean, people do it all the time. There specifically are voice actors that are fucking excellent at that. But like, you're just like
Usually,
staring at a
they're still
lifeless
moving
body with a
around though.
voiceover. Yeah.
Something is like entertaining you while the voiceover is happening. Something's moving. And that's the thing. It's like these autopsy people are moving and doing stuff, but it's like not. It's not interesting, and they're like they're unprofessional in a way that I don't believe it.
Yeah.
So there's that too, I guess. Like I don't. So much of the premise, I don't buy it. So, and they didn't. Yeah, they didn't really lean into like. I've never heard of a snake that does this. Is there a snake that does this? I swore I was bit by a snake. But that doesn't, like to actually discuss like the weird phenomenon of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I got a lot of issues with it, but as far as like a technical presentation, taking what was probably there and doing what they could with it, I think I'll give it that. But it's definitely not anywhere near the best episode of this series.
Yeah. Not to mention, if you're making an episode of a show and there's a litany of things you can choose from in this, collection of short stories you're deriving your stuff from, why do you pick this one? Pick something
Mm.
else.
Well, because they probably thought the voiceover thing would be,
Oh, how very interesting. Kind of like how they did the whole no dialogue thing for the first episode.
yeah.
Maybe they thought it would be, oh, nobody's ever done this before.
And the changed painting thing, like maybe yeah, they
Yeah.
all had these little like
Ooh.
Okay, I got something for you. What's the actor's name again? The dead body, Richard something. Richard.
Richard Thomas.
Richard Thomas. Okay, so I'll just point it out. If you took Umney's Last Case and put Richard
Mhm.
Thomas in that role, and then you put William H Macy in Autopsy Room 4, I think Autopsy Room 4 becomes way better, and Umney's Last Case becomes annoying as shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Richard Thomas. I do think in Ozark he at least was like exactly what he was supposed to be and was great because of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think he's a bad actor. It's just something about him. It's just like ugh. But anyway, let's get to the last episode. Do you want to tell us a
Last
little bit about
episode.
that?
They got a hell of a band. Is the episode name. A
Mm-hmm.
husband and wife are road tripping and take a wrong turn on the highway, only to end up in a town where it's both heaven and hell all at once, and everything is both what it seems like. Everything is both what it seems like and not what it seems like at the same time. Who wrote this?
I don't
No,
know.
that's not what happens.
I'll go ahead and try. You tell me if you disagree. They take they don't take a wrong turn. I think they just choose to go that way,
Yeah.
and that's part of it. And this is the dude's heaven, but not the wife's heaven.
Hmm.
And so that's the heaven and hell thing. Because it's like, yeah, if you like the thing that stuck out to me is that these are all these dead rock stars in this town, like
Yeah.
Hendrix and Joplin and all that, and they just occupy this town, and then sometimes they just keep jamming, man, and like they can jam for like months on end, and it's like obviously that would be terrible, even if you're a giant fan of all these musicians. But it is kind of interesting because it's like sometimes I'll talk with Shockey, my guitar player, and he really likes jam bands and going to festivals and concerts
Yeah.
and all that. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, of course I love music, but like I like to listen to an album while I'm playing a game or lay on the couch and put on a record. There's not a lot that wants me to go out and go to a concert, and I'm really not into jam band stuff. Like I like a nice tight little song. And so it's like, yeah, we go to the small town and it's just like they're gonna jam for 2 weeks. I'm like, oh my god, this is hell. Like so, I did like the premise of that. Like it's like, oh yeah, it's like almost like just yeah, this weird town with all the rock stars. They're like, I would love to meet them and like watch them perform, but kind of like how hellacious that would be if it was just nonstop.
Yeah.
So premise wise, I do really like it. Nothing offensive with the camera. The acting was pretty fun. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
amazing, but not bad. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
There were some cool moments in it, like Janis Joplin vomiting up maggots and stuff like that. That was
Yeah,
kind of a cool little scene, and
yeah,
I mean it was okay. I thought that the beginning took a little while to get into, but I don't know if that's a bad thing because I don't think more time spent in the town would have made it better.
yeah.
So maybe, lengthening out the beginning was the right decision. Um I don't know. I just don't think this has a super strong premise for a 1 hour long episode. Half hour, maybe?
Half hour maybe, or probably works better just on the written page, short story.
Yeah.
Get a little bit of the inner dialogue, all that stuff. Because yeah, you could get into how the husband loves all this stuff and like how perfect it is, and then get into the wife's head about like, oh my god, yeah, yeah.
I thought it
So
was interesting too how it was a little like ominous, like almost all of these dead rock stars were evil because they had like other people trapped there that wanted to leave and they wouldn't let them leave
yeah,
and
yeah.
weird things like that. So it was like it's called the town's called like was it Rock and Roll Heaven or Rock Star Heaven? Rock and Roll
I
Heaven,
think
I
it
think
was Rock and
maybe.
Roll Heaven. That sounds right. And Elvis is
But
the mayor.
yeah, and they won't. And yeah, he's like missing his eyes and stuff. So like they do this weird like demonic stuff of like all of these rock stars are evil, kind of,
Which is
and
ridiculous
want you
because
to stay
we
forever.
know Elvis isn't really dead. So
Of course not.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it is what it is, sort of. Like I try not to overuse that, but it kind of yeah, it doesn't do anything too special other than yeah, it's like, oh, maggots falling out of her mouth. Ah, eyeless Elvis.
Yeah, I
But
think
that's
it
about
would
it,
have
really.
been. it would have been better if they like tried to seduce them into staying there forever and you can't like leave after a certain time of being there rather than being like, "Oh, you got to come with us. You can't leave. We're going to chase you down and drag you back."
So there's a bit of yeah, you could have built up to that maybe a little better. Yeah, maybe they meet. I can't remember even. So obviously it didn't stick that well. But
Yeah.
like maybe the first person they meet, maybe they did do this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like they're at the hotel or something and they just meet one person and they're like, "Wow, you look an awful lot like Janis Joplin. Anybody ever say that to you?" And they're like, "Oh, stop." But they don't necessarily
Hmm.
say, "No, I'm not." And then they're just you kind of hang out with her for a minute and then they have a bit of a discussion. It's like, wouldn't you love it if but if you could, I've never saw her live. Wouldn't you love to just see her live and just drink it in just all night, like something like that? Be
Yeah.
creepy and ominous, and then slowly start. Yeah, like you could be like, didn't you notice that the guy that works in the post office right there? Like, I mean, he looks like Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did they even say the names of stuff? Maybe there's a copyright thing there.
No, I don't think they ever did. They used first names. I don't think
Hmm.
they ever, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. Maybe that limits it a
I don't
little.
I don't recall well. I don't know.
Well, anyway, yeah, I did find the premise fun, and then some of the trippy stuff, and then just the couple fighting about that. I did kind of like that. That the
Hmm.
husband's just like, why wouldn't you want her to stay here? And she's like, oh my god, like I kind of liked that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it faded pretty quick. Whereas Umni sticks with me. At
Yeah.
least like none of the episode, but the premise of the end of the whole mess sticks with me.
Yeah.
A little bit the road virus heads north, just because I paint, so it's gonna pop back
Hmm.
into my brain every now and again. But yeah, so this whole thing is right near the bottom of all the Stephen King stuff for me.
Yeah. I mean, as a whole, yes, there's a few episodes where I mean, I think they're a little better. Like if you were to take just Omni's Last Case, I'd put it a little higher than some of the stuff at the bottom of our list. But
Is
if you're
that the
taking just
only
this
one?
whole series, Omni's Last Case, maybe the Road Virus Heads North is a little better than some of the worst of the stuff we've seen. Um,
It's probably better than trucks.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the series as a whole is probably at the bottom.
yeah. So it didn't end up being as much of a thing that it's placed here, but here's why. Like it's like all of it was pretty bad, so there is that. But we could do this in the future too with like other miniseries we get into.
Hmm.
At one point, we're gonna do the new stand, and I do not hear good things about that, but I'm gonna go through it.
No,
And
it'll be interesting to see. That's for sure.
what's
Whether
the
good or bad, it'll be interesting.
sure? There's Kingdom Hospital, which we couldn't find, but that's a whole season of stuff, like 10 hours. So if we ever find it, we'll go through it at some point and then
Hmm.
discuss that. But we have gone longer than I expected, so I guess just super quick. Any movie news off the top of your head that you're excited about,
Um,
intrigued by?
Excited about the new Venture Brothers movie. The very last of the entire series is coming out on July 21st, so in a week and a little here. So I'll be watching that for sure.
Where is it coming out?
Streaming services on July 21st. I think it may have a select theater release, but not many. I mean, it's owned by Adult Swim, so I'm sure it'll be available wherever their content's available. So,
Mm-hmm. Um, I guess as far as trailers go, there's a Napoleon trailer out now. I haven't watched it. I'll premise this with I have not really wanted to watch a lot of trailers lately.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like it kind of takes away from the whole watching experience for me
Hmm.
lately. So I'm probably am gonna watch the Napoleon one because I do want to get a sense of what it's gonna be like.
Yeah,
But
and I like Ridley Scott
yeah,
enough to check it out.
there's a new Wonka thing with Timothy Chalamet coming out. I don't know if I care, but I'll probably check out the trailer just to check it out. But that came out.
Hmm.
Oh, for fans of the show Barry, I was a big fan of the show Barry. NoHo Hank, the bald gangster, Chechen gangster that has like alopecia. I forget the actor's name. Not gonna bother looking it up because we're running out of time. But he's gonna play Metamorpho, which is a DC superhero in the new Superman movie. So
Oh,
I'm like, hey, great, it's getting a big role, and so just proud of that actor because he killed it in Barry, and I like him enough that that intrigues me about the new Superman, and I hope James Gunn does a good job with that. Tried to watch Secret Invasion, and I think I'm officially truly hitting my MCU fatigue. Like,
yeah.
having a real hard time giving a fuck. Um, I will finish it. I just don't know when.
Well, you're
Uh,
sticking with it longer than I've cared to.
yeah, it's I don't know. I'm fascinated by it just in terms of its cultural impact, and
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to do the thing where yeah, it's starting to suck. Doesn't it suck, everybody? Like kind of the trolls with Star Wars.
yeah,
Like, no, I am interested. Like, is this gonna fall off for general audiences? And it seems like it sort of is starting to, but I
yeah.
think that's genuinely because the content has been weak. They like really spread themselves thin and made it all goofy, silly, high concept, colorful, childlike stuff. Whereas it was more of a balance early on with the Iron Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Black Panther.
Yeah. I was on board back then.
Yeah,
I just, I'm fatigued by the whole thing and am caring a lot less.
yeah. Whereas Star Wars, they still got me.
Yeah,
And I'll get into that in a second here, just to wrap everything up. But I will just say also, like, Coen brothers are getting back together to do something, which makes me super
yeah,
happy. They had kind of just gone off to do their own individual things. There's one coming up. Forget which Coen brother it was, but he's helping produce a. If you could pull it up, I think it's in the movie chat thing. I put the
yeah.
trailer for it. It's like two girls looking into a trunk, kind of Tarantino-y in a way. But yeah, it's
Oh yeah, Drive Away Dolls.
okay. Yeah, so that's coming out. They haven't. I don't think they've announced what they're doing. Um, the two brothers, but there's that. So that excites me. I think they've
Yeah.
wrapped the shoot for Nosferatu,
Hmm.
Robert Eggers, so that's something to look
I
forward
love
to.
Robert Eggers.
Yeah. And he said, he's like, we tried a lot of stuff and it was a really difficult shoot, but we got it. So whatever that means.
Yeah, I
And
certainly hope it's good.
yeah,
I need some good vampire content.
yeah. And, you know, in a weird way, that reminds me of something I'll just mention real quick, just as a thought. Um, yeah, a lot of people are kind of complaining. It's like, don't touch Nosferatu, it's a classic. And it's like, it's been a really long time. I think it's okay to do another Nosferatu.
Yeah. Well, and
And
it's people have touched it before.
sure. And it's just like, I think that's the. We've discussed, yeah, it would be nice if remakes were more of stuff that, like, didn't work great the first time. And
Yeah.
then people tried to remake it to make it better rather than immediately globbing onto a classic. But I was thinking, we were talking about dinosaurs. Me and Shocky were talking about dinosaurs the other day. And, like, the whole
Hmm.
feathers on dinosaurs thing. And it's like, It's a shame that at least the first Jurassic Park was so awesome that that defined how dinosaurs look in
Yeah.
film. And it's like even in the story, it's like they had to splice the DNA with like frogs and all that. So it's like
Hmm.
I think it's even mentioned in the book. It's like what you're seeing isn't even maybe what they were. Like
Yeah.
you messed with the DNA in such a way that it's like this is like a whole new creature in a way. But yeah, so it would be sweet if like more movies rather than like we're gonna make another dinosaur movie but sort of copy Jurassic Park dinosaurs, so nothing new or creative, and it's not as good as Jurassic Park, so but yeah, like make a weird feathered dinosaur thing. I don't know what, but like crazy sounds like holy shit, like you're expecting one thing and that's just different. And I don't know. That's just creativity in general. It's like you don't got to be holier than thou with content. Just, but yeah, try something new. Don't just rehash stuff and do a half-ass job.
Yeah.
So I do hope Nosferatu is really good, and I think Robert Eggers isn't a guy that half-asses things. So he puts his whole
Yeah.
ass in there.
He whole asses everything.
Yeah. And one last thing, the full trailer for Ahsoka came out. I'm excited for that. Seeming like it is just gonna be Clone Wars season 5 mixed with Heir to the Empire, which I'm totally
Hmm.
fine with. I was just
Still
gonna,
Rosario Dawson, I
yeah,
assume.
yeah,
Good. Good. Good.
and Admiral Thrawn and Sabine's coming back, and the little droid from Rebels that people seem to like. He was in the trailer. Chopper. There's even a little Ezra is another character. They had a little hologram of him talking to Sabine. So I'm talking about it like I don't know it because I don't know it. The animation stuff never really grabbed me. So
Yeah, I never really got into it either.
I was gonna ask you is like, do you want to try to watch the essential episodes before that
I
comes
would
out?
I would be fine with that. I think one time I tried doing like a chronological list
Yeah,
of them, and I just kind of fell off at some point and stopped doing it. But I mean, I don't think it's going to be content that's going to like super excite me, but I'd watch it for sure.
yeah. Let's maybe find a good list that doesn't meander much. It's like, what are the
Yeah.
essentials things? Or maybe just a good YouTube video that recaps all of
Yeah.
it. I'm fine with that too. But yeah, I am excited for Ahsoka coming out. Um, oh, we've been watching Righteous Gemstones. That's been amazing.
Oh yeah.
Any other TV stuff going on for you right now? Oh, the new
Uh,
Sunnies have been great too.
yeah. I mean, I guess in news, the Succession is nominated for a ridiculous amount of awards.
I think it broke a record.
Yeah, it was like
The amount of
27 or
nominations.
something.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's
have
ridiculous.
to just watch that on my own time and see if that ever starts clicking
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Other than that, I suppose that is that for this episode.
Yeah.
So I will talk to you next time. Bye
Sounds
bye.
good. Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Jacob Wayne Show. If you would like to contact us, please write us at fakoshka@gmail.com. That is FAKOSHKA@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Simply search The Jacob Wayne Show and it should pop right up. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Please write us. It helps add content to the show and makes the show even better for you, the listener. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome